Welcome to Redneck Light. Today I'm kicking off a brand new series with my Continental Mark V, a true American land yacht that's been collecting dust in my shop for way too long. This build's all about chasing that 20-foot look and reliving the best of the 70s malaise era. If you love budget builds, big cars, and some good old-fashioned problem solving, make sure to hit subscribe and join me for every step of the way. Let's see how far we can take this classic together. Alright, so here we have it. This is my 1978 Continental Mark V. Technically, this is not a Lincoln. This is a Continental, and the model is a Mark V. Though in most places like Rock Auto, you'll see it listed as a Lincoln Continental Mark V. Even though in 1978 there was a Lincoln Continental, there was a Continental Mark V. So needless to say, it was a confusing time for Ford, but this was the last gasp of the great land yachts of the 1970s. By 1978, Cadillac had downsized its entire fleet, and Ford decided to go out with a bang by creating the longest and largest passenger car that it had ever created. This thing is absolutely huge. It is a very long car. It's under the massive aircraft carrier hood. We have a big block Ford, a 460. Started out as a Lincoln motor, went into the trucks at some point. But this was one of the last years for the motor. In 1978, the 460 was optional, with the 400 being the standard motor. By 1979, I believe you could only get a 400 in this. So definitely the last of its kind. Unfortunately, it is an emissions-choked motor, so doesn't create a ton of power, but there are things we can do to fix that. For the most part, everything's original. I've done a few things here and there. I replaced most of the power steering hoses that needed some attention. I've rebuilt the carburetor. Still doesn't work great because it does have its original Motorcraft carburetor. So my particular Continental Mark V is the Mark V of Mark Vs. It is a 1978 Diamond Jubilee. It came in this Jubilee gold color. It also came in a blue. This was one of the first factory cars with a two-stage paint. That means it's actually a base coat and a clear coat versus most cars of the 70s that just had a lacquer coat. It's got these fancy turbine wheels. These are functional fins to help with cooling the motor. On the back here you can see it's got a vinyl top. Obviously it needs some help. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But you can see right there the opera window there, signifying this is a Diamond Jubilee edition. Around the tail end here you can see it's got the Mark V. It's even got vinyl on its rear end. It's a Continental. One fun thing you can do in Texas is you can get a year of manufacturer license plate. By 1978, Texas had kind of a standard license plate over a few years. So I think from 1977 till the 80s. But yeah, she's a little dusty. Haven't washed in a while because, like I said, it's been in the shop for about a year. I've had lots of family commitments, work commitments. I just haven't gotten around to doing a lot of things on the old Lincoln. One thing that's uncommon to see in a car of this age is the interior to be in good shape, and this one is in pretty dang good shape. There's a few little blemishes here and there, but we've got the velour seats of the Mark V. You can see the back seat here. A lot of the seat is faded. You can see right here kind of the color difference. You can see the original color there inside the armrest, and then the faded color of the velour seats that exist now. The story I got was that this car was parked under a carport that protected most of the car. However, unfortunately the car was so long that it couldn't protect the all of the car, so we've got a lot of scorching here from being in the Texas sun. But being a Diamond Jubilee, it's got a very nice interior. We've got the back seats. This little silver insert on the passenger side is unique to the Diamond Jubilee, as is the center console. You've got a little switch here that opens up the center console, and it's got storage for 8 tracks as well as a factory umbrella. Very convenient. Up here, this is a box we'll go into at some point, but you've got a compartment to store whatever you want right there. There's a factory CB radio. Unfortunately, it does not work, and I don't believe there's a way to make it work unless I send it off to be fixed. Same thing with the factory Quadrasonic 8-track player. It no longer works, and I don't believe there's going to be a way to fix it unless I send it off for some expensive service. It's got a miles to empty meter, which is very interesting. It works sometimes. I think this little contact in here is a little sticky. Sometimes when I'm driving around, I can hit this button and it will tell me the miles to empty. Sometimes it just, stays backlit, and that's about it. And you've got your speedometer, all your standard stuff, the temperature control center here. The AC currently does not work. The compressor's stuck. I don't believe it's seized. I think there's something with the pulley. There's a rebuild kit online. I did check the system, and it does have a little bit of pressure left in it. So it may be worth trying to rebuild the compressor and recharging it. It's got a Cartier clock instead of a tack. One common misconception is if you've got a Mark V, a lot of people think they have a Cartier edition because it has a Cartier clock. That is not true. Every Mark V had a Cartier clock. It also had a sunroof. This is a factory sunroof. They actually added it after it was built. Again, this is a Diamond Jubilee thing. You get a sunroof, and it's a power sunroof. Very cool. And it's even tinted with kind of a gold metallic tint to it. So high class stuff for 1978. Now, one thing you might notice, the clock isn't running and none of the lights are actually on inside of the Mark V. That is because every time I see a video about the Mark V or anybody talks about they just bought a Mark V, I always tell them to disconnect the battery when they're not driving it because the seat switches. Now, these seat switches on mine, most of the seat controls work. However, these seat switches corrode and short out. And for whatever reason, the way the electrical's designed, these are not fused. So what happens is they corrode and short. The short causes the switches to get real hot and melt and start a fire. I want to say it was Pole Barn Garage. It may have been somebody else, but they got a Mark V or a Lincoln of some kind, and the entire door panel was scorched from a fire, whereas most of the rest of the car was fine. I remember I made a comment that it was definitely because of the seat switches, and either rip them out or get a disconnect. So if you have a Mark V and you're watching this video right now, if you listen to nothing else I say, make sure you disconnect your battery when your Mark V is parked. If you do not, you run the risk of starting a fire because of the faulty seat switches. Now, like I said, I've done a lot of work to this beast. When I got it, a lot of stuff wasn't working. A lot of it ended up being the ignition switch. It was bad. I had to basically take the entire dash apart. The power steering pump itself, I had to replace that. One thing to note is it's extremely hard to find this particular line and this particular reservoir because the Mark V has a Hydro Boost system, meaning that the brakes are not vacuum boosted. They are actually boosted by the power steering pump. So it's kind of a unique system. You can still find a lot of parts for it, but there's a few different hard lines and hoses here and there that it is very difficult to find. So keep that in mind if you're working on something yourself. The pulley is stuck, seized. Most everything else is original carburetor. One thing I could probably stand to do is do a tune-up, maybe new spark plugs, new wires, cap and rotor, simple basic stuff. I have done an oil change on it. At this point, it's been a couple years. I probably could stand to do a second oil change just to get the older oil out of there. But Pennzoil actually makes a high mileage 10W30. The ironic thing is this car actually has like 52,000 miles, like actual original 52,000 miles. and this is for 75,000 miles, but I figured with how old it is, it could use it. The other thing I do is add some zinc additive. Rizlone makes a zinc additive that works really well. So what I do is I just mix it in the... So right now I've got the Lincoln up in the air. I've got my quick jack here. It's really awesome. I basically can lift the thing up, let it sit on the locks, and it'll stay up there for months. Ask me how I know. But this thing is great for lifting the car up safely and easily. Some things I've done underneath the car, I have replaced the factory. From the factory, this had a muffler and a resonator at the rear end. I've been slowly kind of working on this as I found time. These two mufflers with glass packs. Now I just need to do the final bit to put some pipe at the end. And I'm not going to do a resonator. I'm just going to do straight pipe from here to the back. I've driven it around just set up like this, and I'm really pleased with how it sounds. You can't beat a big block Ford. A lot of people have told me to straight pipe it. That's just, I feel like it's a little too loud for this kind of car. The glass packs really kind of cut down on the obnoxiousness, but still give it a good sound driving around. From the factory, these had an H pipe, but from the documentation, the original owner had the mufflers replaced like 4 or 5 times and a few times under warranty. So at some point, he had the entire exhaust system replaced. A few other projects I want to do in here. Inside this box, if you watch some of my other videos, this is an Amazon Vine find, but I have a set of gauges here, voltage, temperature, and oil, because this doesn't even have a tach. This has all dummy lights. The only problem I have is I can't really figure out where I want to put it where it won't ruin the aesthetic. Here, my knees are going to hit them. If I try for the center console here, I have to, drive screws into my nice center console, and I'm going to have a ton of wires that are going to go. Yeah, I'm still just kind of pondering, what I want to do. My big thing is that when I sit in this car, I want to be transported back to 1978. So by having these gauges and having a bunch of stuff that is modern and new, really does not help the illusion there. That said, there's a few things I'd like to do. I wish I could get the factory CB to work, but I just don't think it's going to happen because it uses this proprietary box that's in the trunk, and I just don't have the money to sit there and try to fix that. The radio, however, I can get, there's a company that makes radios that look like old retro radios, but are basically modern FM, Bluetooth, everything else. So I'll probably get one of those at some point. It may be prudent to do the brakes on this. I haven't done the brakes on this. The brakes feel fine. The car stops fine, but I'm, 80 or 90% sure that it's got the original brakes from 1978. I did rebuild the carburetor. I hate the Motorcraft 4350, whatever 4-barrel horrible. It's a proprietary Ford spread bore carburetor. It just doesn't work very well. I would like to replace the intake manifold with an Edelbrock, put on a regular Edelbrock carburetor. In fact, I've got a 4-barrel carburetor ready to go. I just need to get an intake and get all of that replaced on here. Most everything else works. It hasn't run in a little while, so the doors aren't closed, but the doors do close when the motor runs, and there's some vacuum. They are vacuum powered. They do look really nice when they're down, even though they're all pitted and ridiculous. I would like to do something about this here. This is just completely, this is going to disintegrate if I try to remove it. I've had different suggestions. I've heard people say I can use some fiberglass to kind of patch this up. I don't really know what would be a good idea at this point. Another disappointment I had when I bought this car, it did not have a hood ornament. The original Diamond Jubilee hood ornament is really, ornate and everything, but it's like $800 on eBay. This regular Mark V emblem cost me $150. I can't swing $1,000 hood ornament, so I'm going to stick with this guy. The other thing, I think the guy I bought this from had another Mark V. I think he took the grill out of this one and put it on his other Mark V, because this is supposed to have a grill with some gold accents on it. But instead, this has just got a standard chrome grill. But still looks fine. Side markers, these commonly wear out, but they look good. I think the high beam on this side is also burned out. I need to replace it. This side marker's got a few cracks, stress fractures and things, but these are very hard to find, very expensive, so we're just going to leave that alone. These tires are actually fairly new. I replaced them 1 or 2 years ago. The tires that came with it were like 20 years old, so I think it was the inevitable Jim. He was talking about how these white wall tires, they have this blue stuff on them now that's like impossible to get off. But I've read a few things online on how to get the blue off. One thing, these actually originally came with wider white walls with like kind of a double. There's a wide stripe and then a small stripe. I'm not going to spring for those tires. They're extremely expensive to get reproductions. So I just went with the basic thin white wall. The vinyl top is not in great shape. However, feeling around the bottom, a lot of rust likes to form down here. There is a little bit of surface rust here, but the actual metal itself is pretty strong. I haven't found any holes or anything in it. At this point, I just make sure that I don't get it wet. But at some point, I will need to take off that vinyl top and replace it. I've got some ideas. I've got some redneck ideas. Now, there are companies online where you can get replacement vinyl tops, replacement fittings. The problem is to access a lot of these trim pieces that hold the vinyl top in, you have to take apart the interior. And being a car from 1978 that sat in the Texas sun, most of these interior pieces are extremely fragile, brittle, and will probably self-destruct if I try to take them apart. So being that this is Redneck Light, I've watched a lot of videos from Pole Barn Garage, Junkyard Digs, and what I'm really strongly considering is ripping all of this old vinyl off and replacing it with bed liner. Now, before you freak out, from what I understand, there is bed liner that can be painted. Obviously, this is gold vinyl. If I get a lighter colored bed liner and then paint it gold, it might look good. I still haven't decided yet. It's one of those things I just kind of keep kicking down the road. If you've got any suggestions, like I said, I can't afford $1,000 to buy a ton of vinyl and try to stretch it, pull it, do all the stuff myself. I just don't think I have the skill to do that. And then the alternative of having an upholstery shop do it, $3,000-$4,000, it's just not in the cards for this car. And just, giving it that 20-foot look. And what I'm talking about when I say the 20-foot look is from 20 feet away, any average person looking at this car will say, wow, that car is beautiful. You see, from a little ways away, at a quick glance, this is a beautiful car. Expecting this thing to be perfect, especially if you're on a budget, is just not realistic. But I really want to be able to drive it around and be able to take it to casual shows, to parades, just drive around car and let people, see it and experience it. So if you enjoyed, like I said, this is kind of a different format. I'm going to start kind of a series of working on my Lincoln. I basically gave you an overview of what it needs, what I need to do to it. And if you want to support me, give me a like, subscribe, check out the affiliate links in my videos. It really helps a lot. And of course, let me know what you think in the comments. What should I do about the vinyl top? What are some things that maybe I haven't thought of? Tell me some things that are budget friendly to get repairs done and get this thing on the road again. So hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time.